Zillow just turned bearish on the entire housing market. They recently released their outlook for 2026 and they are forecasting a negative total return on overall prices. Now, what I want to do today is dive into specific areas as to where they're forecasting larger drops. In some areas, they're expecting a 10% decline year over year, while in others, they're expecting 5% growth. So I want to take a look at exactly where they are expecting prices to go in major metros. Now, Zillow historically is usually a lot more optimistic than most outlooks for economists around the housing market. If you're unaware how Zillow works, they essentially just sell your information to real estate agents in the area for $1,000 a call or either a 40% referral fee. And that is basically how Zillow makes billions of dollars. So every time you inquire on a property, they sell your information to a local realtor. So Zillow wants people to be optimistic on the housing market. So this report around negative growth is actually pretty surprising. So let's dive into exactly where they anticipate prices are going to be going in some major metros. Okay, so here's the article. Zillow expects prices to fall 1.7% between March 2025 and March 2026. Now, this has actually been fluctuating every single month. So Zillow has downgraded their housing forecast for the last 12 months or so. They were anticipating growth of plus 2.9% and then plus 0.8% and now negative 1.7%. So I wouldn't be surprised if this number gets revised down even further later in the year, because that does seem to be the trend. So they're citing a huge rise in active listings fueling softer price growth, and that is pretty expected as we saw prices skyrocket over the last 4 or 5 years, and some sellers want to take advantage of that. Now, we are seeing a huge spike in inventory across places like Texas and Florida, which now make up around a third of the entire country's active listings. And no surprise, Florida, we'll get into that in a minute, is expecting some pretty large price drops moving forward. So Zillow essentially is thinking strained housing affordability caused by US home prices rising over 40%, exactly what I just talked about, and mortgage rates rising from 3, they say 6% here, but it actually went to 7% in 2022. And if you look at the overall housing market, that's kind of when prices peaked for the most part, middle to end of 2022. And we have some areas where prices soared continuously, like in my area, Orange County, California, prices have gone up 20% since the overall market peaked in 2022. Before we get on with the rest of the video, my name is Ian Phillips. I am a realtor in Southern California, and I upload weekly videos diving into the housing data, seeing what's going on, kind of giving my 2 cents on everything. So if you're looking for an agent in Southern California, reach out. I'd love to chat. Maybe I'd be a good fit for you. All my information is in the description below. Let's get on with the video. So let's look at some of the major areas where they're actually anticipating growth. Atlantic City plus 2.4%. Going down the list, a couple places in New York, New Jersey as well, Connecticut having some price appreciation. And then we look at Louisiana, negative 10% in Houma, Lake Charles, New Orleans, Lafayette. Louisiana is looking like it's going to get hammered. And really the largest price declines where they're anticipating is Louisiana and Texas. So if we look at the actual chart over here, 1 year change in metros, we can look at between March 2024 and March 2025. So what prices have done for the last year, and then we'll look to where prices are expected to go for the next year. So Florida has been slammed. Year over year price change in Punta Gorda, negative 10%, negative 7.6% in another area. Cape Coral, negative 8%. Naples, negative 7%. And we have Miami, Florida, negative 1.5%. This is some huge price declines over the last year. And then you look at New Orleans, negative 2%. And then we look at Austin, Texas, negative 4.6% in the last year. And if you look over into the more northern New York area, positive 5% over the last year. So overall, it's looking like Northeast US is having positive changes. And then if we look at California, where I am, LA, Long Beach, Anaheim area, positive 2.4% over the last year. And if we look at 5-year change, positive 40%. And places like San Jose, positive 5.5%. But if we look at San Francisco, basically flat for the last year. So let's go ahead and take a look at where they are anticipating prices to go. So this is between March 2025 and March 2026. And as you can see, it is a completely different graph. And Louisiana, New Orleans, negative 7.6%. You can see they're expecting Louisiana to get hit really, really hard over the next year. Same with Texas area. Houston, Texas, negative 3%. Austin, Texas, negative 4%. Dallas, negative 3%. San Antonio, negative 4%. So Texas, and honestly, it's not a surprise to me because we saw a huge boom from people moving from California to Texas over the last 4 or 5 years. Now, last year that changed drastically and we started seeing investors listing an enormous amount of homes in Texas because rents weren't able to keep up with their mortgage. So if you're not profiting on an investment property, chances are you probably just want to sell it. So let's take a look at Florida. Miami, negative 1%. Cape Coral, negative 2%. Florida as a whole is very negative. So you can kind of see from these major metros how they're getting their overall negative decline. If we look at New York, negative 2.5%. Some of these changes are pretty decent. Washington, D.C., negative 3%. And then let's take a look at California. Riverside, negative 1. L.A., negative 2. I actually think LA is going to have a sharper decline than negative 2%. I have a listing over there right now, and the market is very, very slow. There's some homes selling for less than what they were purchased for in 2022. So I actually think this forecast that Zillow has overall is a little on the low side. I think you're seeing a lot of people moving out of areas that saw huge market booms and getting into areas that haven't really seen that yet. So it's no surprise why we have Florida and Texas having sharp declines. And LA, I think, is going to be one of those cities that have a larger drop than negative 2%. San Diego, negative 1%. Oxnard, negative 2.5%. San Francisco has actually been slammed for the last 3 years or so. So it's no surprise that their forecast for San Francisco is negative 5%. Prices have already dropped a huge amount. I had some clients leaving San Francisco, moving down to Orange County, California, where I work, and they said they were looking at homes in SF that were selling for less than what they were purchased for in 2019. Now, it's primarily the condo and townhome market that is getting hit so hard, but those are some incredible price drops that are really unprecedented. We haven't really had too many times in history where real estate prices will wipe off 4, 5, 6 years of gains in an area. So San Francisco, you're probably going to have continuously lower prices. Santa Rosa, negative 5%. And a lot of this is because of the tech boom leaving the area. A lot of tech layoffs are happening in 2024 and 2025. So you don't have as many high-paying jobs in San Francisco as you had in 2021 and 2022. So it's going to be interesting to see how this forecast plays out. I wouldn't be surprised if the economy goes into a little bit of recession. We have had immense growth over the last 5 years, and consumer spending has started to decline. So the negative real estate forecast is actually not surprising to me. And in my opinion, you're going to see areas where only the top 10% can live outperform the rest of the market. If you look at savings records of the top 10% compared to the bottom 90%, the top 10% have an enormous amount of wealth saved up. I believe it's a record $1.2 trillion, while the bottom 90% are either in debt or have bare minimum savings in their accounts. So I think what's going to dictate the overall housing market is going to be the top wealthiest people in the country. But that is it for Zillow's forecast. If you have any questions, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more. And again, my name is Ian Phillips. I am a realtor in Southern California. So if you're looking for an agent in the area, whether you're buying or selling, reach out. I'd love to chat. And subscribe for more. I'll see you next time.